Very well. And France 24 correspondent Sanam Shantia, and I didn't butcher it, did I?
Chantier.
Chantier. Thank you so much. Let's start with you, man. Let's talk about what we're seeing right now, Chris. We see these workers atop the right tower there. What more do we know about the effort that's being undertaken right now?
It's painstaking work. It's dangerous work. It's necessary work. There are two urgent needs. Even as this city is still in mourning, they're trying to come to grips with all the emotion. They know, the engineers, they have got to get inside there and see where the danger is, just how secure is what is still standing of this building. 100 firefighters on standby. They're concerned that in these centuries-old timbers, there may be a little bit of ember that's going on. They're concerned about the possibility of another fire starting. They're also concerned about the possibility that some of these stones that have been charred could crumble. So their number one thing right now is to assess and make sure that they can get safe access for the engineers to go in. But also, Craig, and we watched it yesterday, 2/3 of this roof is gone. It had those huge trusses made of that ancient wood from the Middle Ages. So much of that gone. So they need to figure out a way to get at least temporary roof over there. What they don't want to do, for all the priceless works of art that remain, all the fixtures from centuries ago that remain, they want to be able to protect them from the elements.
Let's talk a little bit about the speed with which the Parisian people have really stepped up. I think a lot of folks from around the world have been a bit surprised that they have been able to raise so much money so quickly to restore Notre Dame. Are you surprised at all by that?
I'm not at all surprised, because we're talking about a monument here that's not just iconically, religiously, culturally, or even architecturally to France, but of course across the globe. This is a building that's been standing for over 8 centuries. It's actually survived 2 world wars. It's survived the revolution, and here we are with one fire. It's essentially lost most of its roof. It's lost this iconic spire. And frankly, yesterday I was here within an hour of hearing that the fire had started. And as we see here today, Craig, hundreds and hundreds of people have flocked to the site. They were transfixed on this, some even shedding a tear. Parisians singing Ave Maria. We're talking about a country here that is a secular republic coming together, because some are saying they've lost a family member almost.
Yeah, I can tell you, when I walked up this morning, Craig, when we arrived and I saw that the spire was gone, it hit me into my emotional core. It's so iconic of Paris and of Europe.
A number of artifacts, fortunately, saved, among them the crown of thorns.
Oh, I mean, that was one of the main things that people were concerned about. And we were both here at the terrible Bataclan attacks where 130 people died. One of the heroes of those attacks was the chaplain for the firefighters here in Paris. He tended to the sick at that time. He tended to the dying. And it was him, with another group of actual firefighters, he insisted on going in and making sure that that beautiful relic, which holds a little piece of what is believed to be the original crown that Christ wore on Good Friday when he was crucified, was saved. They don't know 100% about the rose windows, another iconic piece of this structure, but they're going to assess them. It looks like they are intact. There is a tunic from a 15th century French king, Saint Louis. So much of that was saved. What they don't know, there are things that are bolted to the walls, painted there. They need, again, to make sure that that is stable so they can get that in. They're taking some of that stuff to the Louvre, which obviously every major museum of that stature has a major restoration, but they're going to need help. People from the United States to Russia have offered to help. There are other pieces that are being secured by the Ministry of Culture. They're going to need some time to assess everything and the condition that it's in. Again, like the building, this could be years, even decades of restoration.
And Chris, as you mentioned, this is such an important effort even that the UNESCO, the United Nations body, has come out declaring support with the French government. In fact, within hours of that report coming of the fire, the official came out and said, we will stand by the French government to restore this iconic building, because of course it's a World Heritage Site. And something that you didn't mention that was also saved, and this is standing defiantly at the back of the Cathedral, Notre Dame, is of course the cross, the golden cross.
A lot of people are saying a sign of resurrection, which is what they hope for the building.
We saw that picture from Reuters a few hours ago, the smoke, the ash. There's the picture. Way to go, control room there. The picture from Reuters there on the right side of your screen. Yeah, a little bit more than symbolic. Here's the thing, Sanam. So many Americans know Notre Dame as perhaps the preeminent tourist attraction in this country. Some 13 million people come every year. But give us some historic perspective, because it is so much more than that.
It is, and that's why France as a nation has come together on this day, and they've united. And actually, you're hearing from different sectors of society, it's not just about those that go to the church. We've had statements from the American Jewish community coming out and saying this isn't just a symbolic importance for the French people, but across the international community. And of course, we've also had reactions pouring in from across the globe. Even Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif making a reference to the literary statement of Victor Hugo, who of course wrote that very well-known book about Notre Dame. So again, this is not just a structure that is deemed important by tourists, but every single one of us, if you agree, Chris, that live in this city, that walk past this incredible cathedral, for us it's also meant something, I would say.
It is the direct center of Paris. It is the center of life. Usually on the plaza out in front of it, there are all sorts of street performers and obviously people selling little tchotchkes, but it is always a joyous place. But particularly this week, so many people come here for the services on Holy Thursday and Good Friday, and of course on Easter Sunday they will have to find another place this Easter.
I asked the deputy mayor about the possibility of ringing those bells on Friday, and she said that would likely not happen. Of course, the concern being that any sort of vibration like that could further destabilize the structure. We should also note that a number of buildings to the right of that tower have been evacuated because, as Chris mentioned there, they are going essentially stone by stone now to make sure that there's not falling debris, because while a great deal of the wood there at Notre Dame, that wood has been destroyed, the stones by and large remain intact. I know there was some concern yesterday that the water that was being used to douse the flames, that the water may have caused some irreparable damage. What more do we know about that?
So we actually spoke to several officials at the firefighting service here in Paris yesterday, and actually we know that some 500 forces were deployed to Notre Dame to try and bring this fire under control. They were using water from the River Seine just by us here, and they were using drones to try and assess the damage. Now, I think the firefighting service was very angry for having been criticized by the U.S. President Donald Trump. He came out to say, why is it that we're not seeing firefighting planes in use? And they immediately said, we have to be very cautious about this, because of course we want to make sure that we actually manage to hold on to some of the structure that's still standing. And in fact, it took them apparently over 1 hour to be able to get inside and very carefully remove the artifacts that Chris and I were just talking about. So a great deal of effort from the firefighting services. Though I heard from one of the passerbys that was standing transfixed on Notre Dame yesterday, shouting and screaming, saying, why isn't more being done? Why isn't the army on site?
Sanam, thank you. Chris, do stick around, please, ma'am, if you can. I want to bring in for a moment here